We now switch to an online presentation by Alfonso Falero and Jorge Rodriguez of the University of Salamanca.
Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Yes.
Yes. You can hear me, right?
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay, good.
Are you prepared for your presentation?
Yes, I'm going to start. And then after me, Professor Rodriguez will continue.
Okay. You have the floor. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm trying to share the screen. All right, I'm going to start. If you
Yes, we can see you.
okay, good. Well, first of all, I'd like, in the name of myself and Professor Rodriguez, I'd like to thank especially Professor Carmen Amado, who has invited us to join the conference this year. And also, I'd like to send a special greeting to all those who were already in the venue of the conference of the association in 2004. We had that venue in Salamanca, and I still have great memories of that occasion. Now I'd like to start my presentation that will deal on the past, present, and future of Japanese studies in Spain. I think you can see the PDF, right?
Yes, we can see them.
Okay, good. One moment. Okay, here you have some references to start with, but I'm going to comment. In recent years, the emergence of new undergraduate and postgraduate studies specializing in Japanese studies has been a constant trend in Spain. An updated study on the situation of Japanese studies has also recently been published by Professors Blai Guanme and Iwasa Takuno from the Autonomous University of Barcelona in 2020. And on dealing on the university research group by the publication by Professor Guanme earlier this year is also of great interest. I will add the reference later. Since my intervention at the Congress of the Association in 2004, many things have changed, and others not so much. In this paper, I intend to present a new balance. First, let me point out that Oriental studies in Spain originated at the University of Salamanca, and the council had in Vienne, in France, in 1311, Pope Clement V decreed a canon authorizing and ordering the universities of Salamanca, Oxford, Paris, and Bologna to teach Oriental languages, specifically Arabic, Hebrew, and Chaldean. Despite this early initiative, historical circumstances prevented the expansion of this academic interest towards Oriental languages to Japanese or Chinese, despite the great impact of the Iberian missions in these territories and the availability of the first glossaries. Among these, I cannot fail to recall the figure of the Dominican Diego Collado, who in 1638 was author of the first grammar of Japanese written by a Spaniard in Latin, the Ars Grammaticae Japonicae Linguae, in 1632. And a pupil of the Salamanca classroom. The work of the so-called Iberian century is kept in the private archives of the Jesuits and Dominican friars, mainly, and the documentation of the official exchanges in the Archivo de Indias in Seville, which can still be consulted today. And I will provide in the written delivery of my paper, I will provide of the links. Despite this, the Spanish academic world turned its back on these advances, and Orientalism went into a long decline. Of course, the great wave of Japanism crossed the Pyrenees, and from Catalonia, or later from Madrid, publishers in Spain, Madrid publishers in Spain, news of the great international milestones of modern Japan returned. But we had no scholars during the first half of the 20th century. We had to wait for what we call the first post-war generation of scholars inaugurated by the ex-Jesuit Álvarez Talabriz, pioneer of the recovery of Iberian studies in the 1950s, and the Jesuit Juan Maciá, pioneer of interreligious dialogue. But we had to wait until the beginning of this millennium for studies for Japan to take root in Spanish universities. I'm going to skip just to let you have an impression of the publications of those of the scholars of that generation, but then I'm going to skip to the next point. I would say that we had to wait until the beginning of this millennium for studies on Japan to take root in the Spanish universities. In 2003, the Spanish Ministry of Education and Science changed the name of the studies that include Japan, abolishing the old label of languages and cultures of the Far East and establishing the current name of East Asian Studies, thus moving from an archaic name with a markedly Orientalist tone to an area of knowledge in line with its definition in European universities. Starting with the parallel initiative of the two autonomous universities of Barcelona and Madrid in 2003, in that year, for the first time, degrees in East Asian Studies were offered, followed immediately by the University of Salamanca, and research centers and groups began to be founded in the same universities. These are the metrics of the current degrees in East Asian Studies, which are offered at the autonomous universities of Barcelona, Madrid, and the universities of Salamanca and Seville, with a minor in Japanese language at the University of Granada. Master's degrees are organized immediately to meet the great public demand for these studies at the major universities, starting in 2007 with the Masters in Contemporary East Asia at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. 2009 saw the inauguration of the double Masters in East Asian Studies and Japanese Studies in Salamanca, the first Masters in Spain to offer a degree in Japan as a specialization, and not only as a specialization or itinerary within East Asia. It was followed by the University of Granada and recently by the universities of Zaragoza, Autonomous of Madrid, and a second master in advanced studies in the languages literatures and cultures of East Asia, with a specialization in Japanese studies recently inaugurated in Salamanca in 2021. This is the latest. The teaching and the knowledge of the Japanese language has been and continues to be an important pillar of this curricula. Many of the students entering this program are encouraged by their previous or by partial knowledge of the Japanese language. The study of Japanese in university facilities dates back to the mid-1980s, inaugurated in the Faculty of Translation and Interpretation at the Autonomous University of Barcelona. Today, it is possible to study the language in most university centers in Spain, including official language schools. But research is initiated. Have a look at the possibilities for study of linguistic studies. Research, in fact, is initiated through a doctoral program. Today, it is possible to attain a doctoral degree in Japanese studies at the above-mentioned autonomous universities in Salamanca and also in Zaragoza. The doctoral studies open up the possibility of joining research groups. The main ones are the following. You can see on the in the screen. At the Autonomous University of Barcelona, the group Gregal, Cultural Circulation, Japan, Korea, Catalonia, Spain. I will provide the link for all the groups in my written paper. This group has as its precedent the creation of the Center for Japanese Studies in 1988, a pioneer of its kind, now transformed into the Center for East Asian Studies and Research. Since 2013, it has launched the Library of Japanese Studies of the EAJRS publisher. The Gregal group studies the circulation, reconfiguration, and fitting together of the creative, linguistic, and representational flows that, with Japan and South Korea as main vectors, affect and transform Spanish society in globalizing processes on a worldwide scale. I'm quoting Professor Jorge. It has open access resources, such as the virtual exhibition called The Stories of Clay, the life and work of Choson Korean potters in Tokugawa, Japan, and also the multilingual database of research on the Indian War. And as I said before, I provide the links for the written delivery of the paper. The University of Zaragoza is a pioneer in the study of artistic Japanism in Spain. It is home to the group called Japan and Spain, Relations Through Art. Founded in 2004, it focuses on the study of the reception, presence, and influence of Japanese art in our country, meaning Spain. This group has been recently joined at the University of Zaragoza, particularly since 2012, by the other group, Japan Research Group, which focuses its scientific work on the analysis of the synergies between Japan, Europe, and Spain in the social, legal, and human sciences. The University of Zaragoza offers as well its Federico Torralba collection of East Asian studies as a site for publications on Japan. At the Autonomous University of Madrid, we have the Center for East Asian Studies, CEAO, since 1992, which has been publishing another collection called the Japan Collection since 2017. The Asia Research Group has been housed at the Complutense University of Madrid since 1994. It focuses on developing knowledge about Asian art in Spain, promoting the study of Asia in the Spanish university. The same university also runs the group for the study of interactions Europe-Asia, which has based its research project since 2015 on the field of East Asian history from an interdisciplinary perspective. So in Salamanca, we launched in 2017 the group Humanism Eurasia. But this group will be presented by my colleague, Professor Jorge Rodriguez later. At the University of Granada, focused on the study of language, we have the group called Didactics of Foreign Languages, with a research line on the teaching of Japanese language. Also, the University of Valladolid in the Castilian region is home to the research group on the reception of the Japanese imaginary in English and French travel literature from the 19th to the 21st century. This group is interested in mythical symbolic studies of the Japanese imaginary and its reception in modern European travel literature. Finally, I'd like to go back to the group cited below at the University of Seville, which offers one of the degrees in East Asia and has and counts with distinguished emeritus researchers such as Fernando Garcia Gutierrez from Japanese art, who died recently, and Fernando Rodriguez Izquierdo, specialist on haiku. There we have in the research group Equipo de Filosofía de la Cultura, Philosophy of Culture team, where which includes research on Japanese culture. As for resources in archives and museums, I'd like to refer to a list that I will attach to this presentation when I deliver it on the written version. In terms of the dissemination of academic results, there is a particular role played by the Mirai, by the journal Mirai, Estudios Japoneses, Mirai Nihon Kenkyu Kyo, founded in 2017 as the publication organ of the Association of Japanese Studies in Spain. 1 year later, 2018, the 150th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Japan and Spain was celebrated, was held, which we can consider a turning point towards the current state of research in this country. And I'd like to conclude my presentation, this part of the presentation, with by noting a series of challenges to be faced at Spanish universities in relation to Japanese research. And in return, a series of values to be cultivated in the coming years. In terms of challenges, I'd like to point out the need of establishing more advanced level of increasing the level of Japanese language in university programs. Also, the need for fostering mobility of university teaching staff, or of overcoming linguistic mediocrity in the research on Japanese studies, which is still found on several places where Japanese studies are presented. Area studies also must be generally reviewed, not only in Spain, but also generally. The structure of area studies, and many scholars find it already obsolete. And also, I think we have a problem of the bureaucracy, excessive bureaucracy in the Japanese, in the Spanish academic structure, which makes it difficult to innovate on programs for the Japanese studies. And also in terms of values, I'd like to point out the importance of human capital. We have many young researchers. Also, a very high demand for Japanese studies. The richness of the Spanish as a vehicular language, besides Japanese and besides English, of course. The need to recover the Spanish indigenous tradition of Japanese studies. And finally, the need to foster, to improve academic and human hybridization with other fields of study and with other research centers in Europe and in Japan. And this is here my part of the presentation finishes. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will give way to the next presenter, my colleague, Jorge Rodriguez, who will present our research group in Salamanca. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alfonso. I will share my screen. One moment, please.
You have about 7 minutes left, so it's a short
Okay.
period. I'm sorry.
I try to be short. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Jorge Rodriguez, Associate Professor in the Department of Modern Philology at the University of Salamanca and Secretary of the Humanism Eurasia Research Group, whose trajectory I will talk about next. Our group was established in 2017 with the idea of forming a transdisciplinary group of researchers covering various fields related to languages, cultures, and societies of the vast geographical and cultural concept to which we give the name of Eurasia. In addition to the intention of claiming the integration of this space from the point of view of intellectual flow, an idea that has been embodied in the focus on the passage from local and regional frameworks to a global orientation, the objective of the research groups is the multidisciplinarity of the field of humanities, interweaving humanistic approaches from art, literature, religion, philosophy, or history with the prism of the social science. The objective is ultimately to try to understand how a society explains itself. After its consolidation, the research group was structured into several work units specialized in more specific disciplines or fields of study. Thus, originally the units of anthropology, later folklore anthropology, societies, art and aesthetics, contemporary literatures, and history and classical texts were created. Later, the contemporary pop culture unit, which I personally coordinate, was added. Each of the units has a coordinator and several researchers belonging both to the University of Salamanca and to other Spanish or international universities, who are coordinated by a steering committee for the whole group. To highlight the international vocation of the group, we have researchers belonging to Japanese institutions such as Kokugakuin University, Tokai University, or Waseda University. I would also like to mention Carmen Amado, President of Macau Scientific and Cultural Center and Professor at the University of Coimbra. Between 2018 and 2020, the research group carried out the research project Transversal Anthropology of Knowledge, Castilla, León, and East Asia, funded by the Junta de Castilla y León and continuing the work initiated by Alfonso Falero in a previous project carried out between 2009 and 2011. Of translation and study of the work of the Japanese ethnologist and philologist Orikuchi Shinobu. In addition, between February 2021 and the end of December of the same year, David Doncel, co-director of the group and coordinator of the Society's work unit, was the PI of the research project Educational and Professional Guidance Training of Chinese Human Capital in Spanish Culture, financed by the University of Salamanca. One of the activities that the Humanism Eurasia Research Group has focused on carrying out periodically has been the International Conference on Research and Training Humanism Eurasia, conceived as a congress that brings together the most relevant contributions not only about East Asia, but also exploring its connection with Europe in such a way that they try to give value to the concept of Eurasia. The first edition of the conference was held on March 2019 under the thematic title of Transversal Anthropology of Knowledge. It was attended by about 40 researchers from Spain and abroad, many of them of recognized prestige, belonging to each of the specialties related to Eurasian studies in which the structure of the research group is divided. Due to the success of the first conference, very soon the group decided to repeat them the following year, trying to make them an annual event. The second conference was planned for March 2020, but as we all know, due to the declaration in Spain of the state of alarm caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, its celebration in person had to be suspended. However, instead of choosing to postpone the conference to the following year, we considered the option of delaying it for a few weeks and reorganizing it in an exclusively virtual format through the Studium platform of the University of Salamanca. In this way, the conference could be held on April of the same year, and we consider it to have been a success given the circumstances, as well as discovering that the format offered an interesting means of interaction between speakers and attendees. The third conference was held on May 2020 and 21 in the Aula Magna of the Faculty of Philology of the University of Salamanca. Due to the restrictions imposed by the health situation, the conference also had a virtual support, which facilitated the live participation of researchers living in places like Japan and the attendance of a part of the public who could attend the lectures from their own computer. In addition, for the first time, the conference was structured around a monographic theme, Women and/or Water in East Asia, so that many of the papers provided different points of view on the subject, trying to conclude a global vision of the proposed theme. In the current year, 2022, the University of Salamanca and the East Asian Studies area of the Department of Modern Philology is responsible for hosting and organizing the celebration of the 15th National and 6th International Congress of the Association of Japanese Studies in Spain, which will take place on October. Because of this, the Humanism Eurasia Research Group has been actively involved in the organization of this Congress, and we have chosen to integrate our participation in it, so that, in a way, our annual conference are assumed within it. Something similar is planned for June 2020 and 23, when the University of Salamanca will host the next third Congress of the Association of East Asian Studies in Spain. And again, our group is integrated into the organization of this. Beyond the organization of the conference and congresses, the group has had the opportunity to be present at congresses such as the Second International Congress of the East Asian Studies Association, held virtually in Madrid on June 2021, and in which we participate by presenting several thematic panels. Some photos of the conferences. In addition to holding the conference and participating in different congresses, our research group has also focused on the elaboration of publications, with the aim of contributing to the framework of knowledge of Eurasian studies. In this sense, it's worth mentioning the Eurasia book series, whose first volume, subtitled Research Avances de Investigación, we published in 2021 in the publishing house Ediciones Universidad de Salamanca, within the Aquila Fuente collection. This book of about 370 pages, coordinated by Alfonso Falero and David Doncel and edited by myself, is the result of the highest quality work initiatives presented at the Second International Conference on Research and Training Humanism in Eurasia. So it has chapters of different specialties written by a total of 56 authors. In addition, one of the innovations that we consider most relevant is our commitment to offer opportunities to research from both China and Japan, so that the book contains a bilingual section of contributions written in Chinese and Japanese that have a translation into Spanish or English, according to the specific preference of the author. Thanks to the good result that we consider that Eurasia Avances Investigación had after the celebration of the third conference, the group took the decision to take advantage of this opportunity to turn this publication into a series. So we are currently finishing editing its second part, Eurasia Volumen 2, Mujer y Agua, Women and Water. This second work has been structured like the edition of the conference to which it is associated, around the central theme of women and water in the Eurasian context, covering both specific studies on one of the two elements and multiple approaches to their cultural, anthropological, historical, or even religious connections. Therefore, this volume, which we also publish with Ediciones Universidad de Salamanca, is expected to be less ambitious in quantity, with around 2,270 pages, but more succinct in its content, with the participation of a total of 24 authors. In addition to the Eurasia series, some of the units of the research group are working on their own publications. The most outstanding and soon to be published is Urikochi Shinobu Fundamental Text, Textos Fundamentales, a compendium of translations of these ethnologies and philologies by the Anthropology of Folklore unit, whose line of research has focused
to finish up quickly.
Okay, I'm just finishing.
Last slide, please.
Okay. The book is coordinated by Alfonso Falero, Masako Kubo, and Sara Gomez. It will be published very soon by Satori Publishing House, inaugurating a new collection of academic essays, Estudia Japonica, directed by Alfonso Falero and Santiago Martín Ciprián. Finally, the Contemporary Pop Culture Unit is currently compiling a volume tentatively entitled Between Kawaii and Moe, Two-Dimensional Fascination in Contemporary Japan, which aims to highlight the study on two socio-cultural concepts so famous and relevant to understand the current pop culture in Japan. Before concluding, it's necessary to point out that most of the researchers of humanists in Eurasia contribute to academic knowledge through individual publications regarding their specific lines of work, but on many occasions integrated and linked to the research carried out by the group itself. Okay, I finish it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to cut you short.
Okay. No
thank you for a very interesting talk. Maybe one question online, maybe somebody. I don't see any reactions for online questions here in the room. Somebody? No, okay. I'm sure we have your contact information. So if people want to know more about Japanese studies in Spain, they can contact us or find them directly online. So thank you very much for your presentation.